Hello everyone, welcome to the second episode of Intrepid Ibex. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful California day. I'm going to do an exposure therapy today. An exposure is when someone exposes themselves to something that makes them anxious with the goal of overcoming the anxiety. For me, driving beyond a certain distance causes my anxiety, which is a symptom of agoraphobia. Hence, why we're doing the drive. This technique can be applied to various situations, such as socializing in groups, riding elevators, flying, and so many others. Our exposure today will be about 50 miles long one way, which will take about 2 to 3 hours. As in the previous episode, I will go through the 3 phases in an exposure. The first phase happens before the exposure begins. It's all about increasing the probability of success, and it starts with therapy. In therapy, I learn about what causes anxiety, symptoms, ways to prevent it, and how to manage it. Next is healthy living, which includes quality sleep and decent diet and exercise. Often 8 hours of sleep is a luxury, but sleeping well the night before an exposure can help. For food, I meal prep most of my meals and try to get a good balance of proteins, carbs, and vegetables. I have a sweet tooth, but have found too much sugar is no bueno for a balanced blood sugar, and I've switched to low or no sugar desserts. And for exercise, I'm not talking about an expensive gym membership and hours of heavy weights. My doctor suggested at least 20-30 minutes of light exercise, such as walking, and I try to do that as a daily habit. Another way to prevent anxiety is to reduce practical stressors such as car maintenance and personal maintenance. I fuel up and check the tire pressure. Also, I bring snacks and water to maintain my blood sugar level and stay hydrated. So snacks, water, travel companion, and my comfy Fox Fur Coast socks to keep my feet happy, and I'm ready to go. Well, we're still driving out of the more densely populated area. As I head towards the mountain, I am looking forward to being away from the congestion. Let's hit the NOS and make our way to the canyon entrance where maybe some anxiety creeps in. Well, we've reached the canyon entrance and are well into phase 2, the exposure. At this point in the phase, I will stay aware of any symptoms such as sweaty palms, faster heartbeat, muscle tension, etc., and manage them using techniques I learned in therapy. Techniques such as breathing, grounding, and a body tension release exercise. Depending on the exposure, it may even begin the night before or even earlier. I had to drive to Las Vegas for work, and the previous evening was not pleasant. Limited appetite, racing thoughts, worry, and lack of sleep intruded into a normal evening. By the time I left the following day, I only had about 3 to 4 hours of restless sleep and had to force feed myself some breakfast. Thankfully, my brother joined me to go to the same trade show, and that just made the trip easier. The trip went well despite the overall elevated level of anxiety. Since then, I've driven up to Vegas multiple times and have grown to enjoy the desolation of the desert landscape. Let's speed up again and take a break at a location called Redbox, where we'll take in the view, ground ourselves, and practice regulated breathing. It's time for a break and some breathing. If you want to join in, I inhale for 7 seconds and exhale for 5 seconds with a short beat in between. I do this 3 times and then return to normal breathing. Let's begin. This video is brought to you by Fox Fur Professional Performance Socks. The team at Fox Fur spent years combining the aesthetic of a dress sock with the performance of a fitness sock, designed to help keep your feet comfortable throughout the day, whether you work in an office or at a construction site. Features include optimized height, Achilles cushion, instep shield, seamless toe, fine mesh ventilation, and light cushion zones for the heel and toe. And all the socks are made of a vegan blend called Capillite that wicks away moisture to keep your feet dry. You can find Fox Fur socks at www.foxfurco.com. Use the discount code INTREPID25 at checkout to get 25% off. Let's continue on to the more snowy portion of the drive. It was 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 23 degrees Celsius at the city start point, and it's now 39 degrees Fahrenheit or 3 degrees Celsius. I use metric for most of my professional work because it makes more sense, it's easier to use, and many of the manufacturers use it. But outside that, most everything is imperial. When you look up the history of imperial units, you can understand how human factors define them. The inch apparently in the 12th century was defined as 3 dry barleycorns laid end to end. I'm sure there was some disagreement over who caught the bigger fish, and everyone had a different opinion on how big an inch was. Alfred claimed his 6-inch fish was bigger than Agnes's 10-inch fish. They decided to use a common item familiar and available to all to define an inch: barleycorn. Now Alfred's fish was only 4 inches and Agnes's was 8. I'm sure the kerfuffle was the talk of the village. If I'm wrong with any of my history, please take it up with Wiki. It's time for some still shots and a hit of NOS. Once again, I check in on myself and I notice a little bit of anxiety creeping in. It's the most anxiety I've felt in this entire drive. I make sure my breathing is normal, my muscles are relaxed, and my mind is at ease. I sometimes get introspective on lonely drives, and I wonder, do I have enough ground clearance to drive over a seemingly small fallen rock? Oh look, a friendly rock. Let's find out.
Yeah, man.
No, in fact I don't. I've pulled off into one of the campsites along this route in search of a bathroom. The campsites here are inexpensive and feature exceptional views. Oh look, a bathroom. Back on the road for one last quick jaunt. We've arrived at our destination, Newcomb's Ranch. I'll spend some time hanging out and grounding myself till I feel comfortable. This reinforces that traveling and being in locations such as this is normal. It is odd feeling almost no anxiety, even though just 10 minutes before I was feeling anxious. I think my brain realized, oh yeah, this isn't so bad. In fact, this is kind of nice. The majestic views, cool clean air, and scarcity of people. I've begun phase 3, the reward, reflect, and relax phase, even though the reflect and relax portion isn't complete till I return home. It's good to reward yourself for completing an exposure as positive reinforcement. Part of my reward is escaping into the mountains, and the other part will be playing some video games when I get home. Also, I reflect on why I'm doing the drive and how it helps my quality of life. Lesson for the day: don't bring a car to a rock fight. I leave you with these thoughts. With a good plan made with a licensed therapist, application of proper grounding and breathing techniques, and a reward system, we can have a successful exposure, making our lives a little easier, a little happier. Also, take care and go easy on yourself because there is only one of you. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you've had a good time. Good night.